Here's 6 things that whilst you're going through a spiritual awakening, you should most definitely avoid. But I don't think they're the things that you think they might be. So stick around and we'll dive into this. So, generally speaking, there are some things that we should avoid doing if we're on a spiritual awakening path. Our energy is finite, especially, in this finite existence, at least, in this finite expression. And so we should use it wisely, isn't it? Because we need that energy for our spiritual growth. Without that energy, we don't feel that good, isn't it? We feel drained, and we need to be at our peak fitness in a way, or in a peak way, to be able to serve the community that we're wanting to serve. And before we dive into the 6 impediments or the 6 things to avoid for the spiritual awakening path, I just want to bring your attention down below to a few free and paid offerings here on this channel. You have access to a free breathing practice down below, a free introduction to Hatha Yoga, a free community or Sangha for awakening souls that are going through the same experiences that you are. There's over 2,000 people in there now, which is crazy really. And also you can apply for the Freedom Blueprint. This is for the person who's ready to take the next step on the journey, who's ready to take things seriously and go a little bit beyond YouTube yoga, and really have a structured, tried and tested path to spiritual success. It comes with sadhana, coaching, and a Sangha community of people, and some really good tried and tested, battle tested techniques to help us grow as fast as possible through this spiritual journey. Now, on to the video. The first thing you should avoid on your spiritual path is overeating. Rich coming from me, isn't it, with these chubby cheeks nowadays? But what they say, my teacher said this, it's also found in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, you should have 50% of your gut filled with food, 25% of the room should be there for liquid, and then there should be 25% space in there so that everything can mingle around and churn in the way that it's meant to. Have you ever eaten like 5 sandwiches in a row? I have, guilty. And it feels like you've eaten 2 bricks, doesn't it? It's heavy, it's dense, it's not the most nutritious food either, and so it's likely to put a dampener on your prana. But even if it doesn't do that and it's really nutritious food, even still, the amount of energy that's then needed to digest that food is a lot more than we're really willing to give, and we'll end up feeling tired throughout the day. Our energy is here to be used for our spiritual growth, isn't it? So that we can serve the people we're meant to serve, which to start with is us. And if we're not fueling it with the right things and we're doing too much of the bad things, we can't even serve ourselves, isn't it? So this is the first one, overeating. The second one, overexertion. So what does this mean? It means stop doing too much. It's different to being lazy, because you want to do your sadhana, and you want to do your sadhana every day, preferably once in the morning and once at night. This is the best combination to supercharge your nervous system, to really shift the trajectory of your life momentum so that you can bring about the highest possibility in your life. But if you're overexerting yourself on menial things, then you won't have the energy to do your sadhana, which is the thing that is there to supercharge you and bring you more energy. So we're not looking at saying don't overexert yourself in the sadhana, although sometimes we're also saying that, it's saying don't put yourself in the splits in the first 10 minutes of your session. You've got to ease yourself into it, isn't it? So overexertion, that's the second thing to try and avoid on the spiritual path. The third thing, I like this one, over talking. Especially when we're with new people, isn't it? We tend to do that ego over talking where we're really scared of this new person. Not scared of them, but like scared to get to know them because we don't want to be seen like a freak or something. And so we over talk, don't we? We don't settle into the spaces inside of ourselves, settle into the stillness, that grounded feeling inside of ourselves as we talk. We tend not to talk from that stillness, we tend to talk from the ego that's likely feeling insecure anyway when a new person is around, and so therefore we end up looking weird. Perhaps if we just trusted our feeling sense a little bit more and we got in touch with that feeling sense a little bit more, we might feel the need to talk less. And then when we do talk, it's poignant, isn't it? There's a sense to it. There's a logic to it. Over talking as well is such a waste of energy, isn't it? Sometimes we recognize that. We look back over the last 30 minutes that I've spent with this person and we've realized, gosh, I really haven't shut up for 30 minutes. And it's draining on another person too. Have you ever been with an over-talker? Like, God, they really get you, don't they? It's such an energy drain. And so we're wanting to be conscious of that. The fourth thing, I love this one too, is overly adhering to rules. So avoid overly adhering to rules if you're on this spiritual path. What does that mean? Well, it has two meanings from my perspective. Number one, it means if it's late at night and you're in your car at a red light and there's nobody around and there's no police and you're just waiting at a red light for absolutely no reason, it means run the red light. You know, carry on your journey. That's kind of what we're looking at here. Don't over adhere to social norms. Remember, this is just what society is telling you to do. When you can use your own sense to override that, you should. I'm not saying go and break the law. You know, we're not looking for anarchists here. The law's there for a good reason. But when it makes sense to do it, isn't it? We can't lose all of our sense and logic just because there's a law or a rule there that says I can't do it, you know. But there's another thing here, because also we don't want to over adhere to spiritual rules too, because there's such a dogma in spirituality, isn't there? Or any, you know, I don't want to combine religion and spirituality because they are somewhat different, you know. Spirituality isn't asking you to believe in anything, it's asking you to experience it for yourself. Use the tools to experience life in a big way for yourself, isn't it? Whereas religion does tend to ask for belief. Although in fact most of the religious texts are actually pointing you towards experiences inside of yourself. We just read it with the wrong eyes or hear it with the wrong ears, and we've not got that personal experience inside of ourselves that might allow us to read the Bible or the Quran in the way that it's really meant. They're techniques, not stories. They're representative of something. But when we overly adhere to rules, and let's give a rule. What's a rule? Non-violence. You know, if we overly adhere to that, it's not appropriate. Why? Because we might create an outrageous expectation, spiritual expectation of me to be completely non-violent forever. And this isn't what it's about. You should be, maybe, I don't know, a monster, but not use it. You know, not use that monstrous capability. When I say monster, what do I mean? I don't mean be a dick all the time. No, I just mean you should have that capability for violence inside of yourself so that you can use it if you need it. There might come a time where you need it, and if you're overly adhering to that spiritual rule of non-violence, you might get hurt. And so we're not looking for senseless adhering to rules or spiritual dogma. We're here to be flexible and fluid with it, to appreciate it most of the time, to live by these rules most of the time, as and where we can, but then when it's needed to break that rule, we break it, if it makes sense, isn't it? Number 5, and you'll like this one, because it's written in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, this, as don't hang around with common people. But that's not very politically correct, is it, anymore? You can make your own valued judgments of what a common person is. But I was talking to somebody in one of our group calls earlier. Oh gosh, I can't use it because it's a swear word. Oh, I'll use it anyway. So basically, what she said, I said, what's a common people? And one of my clients said, I think this is somebody who's a bit of a basic, one of these basic that drink their Starbucks, that wear the Louis Vuitton bags. Nothing wrong with Louis Vuitton bags, nothing wrong with Starbucks, It's just that's all our life has come to, is the attainment of these material things. This is maybe what a common person is, somebody without substance. What we were looking at, we were just in our advanced teacher training course, that we've just started, and what we found, at least what the teacher said was probably the best way to say this nowadays, so it's politically correct, is don't keep poor company, isn't it? Finally then, number 6, the thing we should not be cultivating, or we should be not trying to avoid in a way in our spiritual path, is a wavering mind. I like the image of a flip-flopping around. This is a wavering mind, isn't it? A mind that's in one moment overly self-doubting, and the next moment incredibly egotistical or something like this. We're wanting to cultivate some balance, isn't it, with the mind, so that we're not living on the extremes of life all of the time, because this can become really toxic. So there's the 6 things to avoid on your spiritual path. I hope this helps. Lots of love. Namaste.